the Sisters Minor of Mary Immaculate, founded by Mother Maria Elisabetta Patrizzi, August 14th, 1983. There have been allegations of abuse within the convent walls. Former members of the SMMI allege that they faced physical, emotional abuse, strict rules, food restrictions, and they have likened their experience to that of a cult. These are their stories, in their words. Hello and welcome to the Cult of SMMI. I am your host, Scott Mort, and I owe you an explanation. We have been gone for a long time. And that is, I'm not going to say it's my fault, but I have had a spate of bad luck. So, getting back to it. It's been a little bit of a journey. A few weeks ago, I was getting ready for surgery. Three and a half years ago, I had an accident that left a large sum of glass in my foot. Glass I didn't know was there. An X-ray showed that I had pieces of glass spread throughout my foot. Some of it can be taken out. Some of it has to remain. It would do more damage to go in and take it out, and scar tissue has formed around it, so it's not really giving me any problems. I will carry that with me until I die, rot, and it falls out on its own. But one piece in particular was giving me a lot of problems. So I had a surgery set up to get that piece out. About a week before the surgery, my boss came down with a stomach flu. And then 24 hours after my boss came down with the stomach flu, which he recovered from quite quickly, I came down with a stomach flu. And it put me down pretty bad. I was couch locked for about 2 days. This was a Wednesday night that I got sick, couldn't stop shivering, and Saturday morning, whenever I finally felt better, I put my leg down, and the pain that shot through my leg was electric. I hadn't drank a lot of water throughout my sickness. I thought I had the gout. What I actually had was cellulitis. There are theories about how I got the cellulitis. It's neither here nor there. I got treated for the cellulitis. And then, of course, because they won't operate on one leg if I have cellulitis in the other. So finally, I got it. I got the surgery rescheduled. My surgery was yesterday, and I am sitting here right now, stitches in my foot, a relatively glass-free foot, finally, and it's just, I'm so happy. I'm in pain right now, I'm not going to lie to you, but I am so happy that that's gone. It's like Christmas, except I'm the package that was opened. But during that time that I was sick, there was just, the pain of cellulitis is incredible. And there is just no way I could focus. I did try on Saturday to edit stuff, but my mind was all over the place. And on playback, I saw that I missed something that I should have taken out. I didn't want to take that chance. I'm not here to make enemies. I'm not here to break trust. So I played it safe. Today I am feeling very, very good. And with that, we are going to continue our conversation with Mike Kovacs. We're back to where we started. Mike Kovacs is going to continue his conversation, and it is as all these are, an absolutely amazing and heart-wrenching tale. Before we get started with Mike's tale, though, the views and experiences expressed by our podcast guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the podcast network. While we strive to provide a platform for diverse perspectives and engaging conversations, it is important to note that the experiences shared by our guests cannot be independently verified. Listeners should exercise critical thinking and consider these stories as personal anecdotes rather than established facts. There is no way to definitively refute or verify the claims made by our guests. The hosts and this podcast network are not responsible for any statements made by the guests during the course of the show. Listeners are encouraged to form their own judgments and seek additional information if desired. Without further ado, Mike.
Chris and I went away to Hawaii because it turned out I had saved up 20 years of miles on my card and didn't know. And then I checked and we can go to Hawaii for free, but we have 2 months to book this to get there. So Chris and my mom is on hospice, and right before I leave, I send a letter to the Diocese of Trenton. I send it to the diocese, to the church where Teresa and Jessica are at down in South Jersey, and I'm waiting to see if they get it. This is so I sent it on a Tuesday. I priority mail it. No one. Now the letter itself was my first shot off the bow, which was, I said, look, I didn't know what was going on. I said, I don't know what's going on. I can't figure any of this out. My sister's order that she's in, I don't even know what she is in anymore. I can't contact them. She's doing this stuff that's going on. She's trying to kill my mother. And in that letter, I stated, and remember, this is 2011. She goes, I put in there, while I have no documentation of sexual abuse, or physical abuse, I do know of verbal abuse, because one of my other sisters saw her screaming and reaming out this underage girl who was in it. And I didn't see that, but my sister did. So I had somebody witness something. So that was in the letter. Keep that phrase in mind. While there was no evidence of sexual or physical abuse, comma. Okay. So no one replies to me. It's a Tuesday. I send it out. It must have got there Thursday-ish or whatever. So Friday, my wife and I go to Hawaii. We go from New York to San Francisco. When we arrived in San Francisco, I turned my phone on. There's 5 messages from my other sister. And I'm like, what's going on? And I've listened to the voice messages, and she is screaming. And I'm like, oh, I guess they got the letter. So, because Teresa and Jessica would come back to my mom's place on the weekends. So I just turned the phone off, and I would get on the flight from San Francisco to Hawaii. And then when we get to Hawaii, I don't even remember if I called back. I must have called back and I screamed that. Turned out Teresa had come home, and raised all unholy hell, because the pastor of that church down in South Jersey, which was, I think, somewhere near where Jessica's parents live, he did not call me up when he got the letter. He decided to call in Teresa and be like, hey, I got this letter. What's going on? And so nothing to do with me, just called her in. She came home and then went ballistic, just screamed her brains out. I really couldn't overly figure out why, because I thought it was because I said, look, she needs psychiatric help. She should not be a nun. She needs psychiatric care. So I had no idea really why the explosion was so bad. But whatever. So we're in Hawaii. We get a call like in the middle of the night that my mom has 103 fevers in the ER. Now she is on hospice, but she is compos mentis. And you would not go to the hospital for a really super high fever to get cured because, you're in hospice. So it turned out my mom signed away the hospice, like, nope, I want to get cured, and signed it away. So now she was getting treated for her UTI, which is really common. And so okay, so that's great. So fine, she's better and she's off hospice. We come home, and I go back to my mom's place and see what's up. And I think everybody was there. And then my mom's screaming at me, I disown you for what you did. And I'm like, again, thanks. you know. And Teresa was just nuts. She was enraged, and I couldn't figure out why. Here's why she was so bonkers. It turned out that the two things. One, the reason I never got called up was that the priest who was the pastor there, called her in for the discussion, was actually busted for some matters dealing with the seminarian, a male seminarian, and some sexual allegations there. Found the court records on that. So he didn't want to engage with the outside world. He wanted to keep this in-house. So he was hiding himself and Teresa. Now, what tripped Teresa off was actually that one line I put in there without knowing, which was, why know of no sexual or physical abuse? I didn't know there was sexual abuse. I didn't know there was physical abuse. I just knew what was going on with my mom and trying to kill her. But I didn't know what was going on inside the order itself in 2011. So that's where that was the first tip off, which I didn't realize till years later. So months go by, and then I'm on the phone with my other sister, my little sister, and she's like, hey, there's morphine still in the fridge. And I was like, get it out, because we knew that we were pretty sure that it was a matter of time before could be administered and kill my mom. We were just really like, that was a no-brainer. So I think my sister got it out of there. So that was no longer a problem. So it's 2012. Now, the very dark time happened between 2012 and 2014 or 15. That was where it was like literally the worst, because I couldn't find anybody to talk to. All the abuse programs that I called up didn't know what I was talking about, even though it was a form of abuse, or I was kind of screwed, or there was something wrong. No one had ever heard of anything like this. So I just wandered around and I tried to do research on the order. So, and I couldn't find anything because I didn't know who they were. And I had some friends who were in the SMMI. Now, the SMMI in 29 split. It was the SMMI, and then Patrizzi just literally did a schism and went to form another group. Okay, so the old crew was there, and I knew them, and they were lovely. I said, these women were very nice to me. I never once had a problem with them myself. Never. Hence why it was a big surprise. But Patrizzi was doing the secondary thing, and I couldn't find their name. I couldn't find anything on them. It was just the weirdest thing, and no one wanted to talk about them, and no one would listen. And that was when I became, how do I put this gently? I had a severe depression and despair. I think it was in another of the podcast, but that was the worst, because no one would listen to me, and I wanted this to stop, and I wanted to save my mom's life, and I wanted to make it better. And so then, therefore, without going into detail, to get this demonetized, I was thinking about doing some things that would help out, but cause me to, well, you get the idea. So, but I got through that. And one day, I think I was looking at the SMMI and Wiki, and I hit the talk tab. And the talk tab, which I never thought of, I didn't even thought of the talk tab on Wiki. The talk tab had this little blurb. So this order sexually, physically, and emotionally and spiritually abuses anyone who's in it. And it was like this real short, kind of like, really intense thing. And I went, wait, what? I was like, hold on, we got something. But I couldn't follow it up. And then I found Fat Mess. So, well, I tried other forums, but they sucked. So I found Fat Mess. So I went on Fat Mess with another name, with a pseudonym in a different email, and started kicking around because they were the only website that mentioned the SMMI. And there was, I'm not sure, I haven't gone on there in a while, but there was postings about it. They knew about it. There were a couple of people, two people or so that were in it that were in it that were posting. So this is where things got weird. So I joined Fat Mass, and I was like, I would say snooping, but I was looking around. I tried to get some conversations going, and it was rough because the two people that were involved were pretty tight-lipped. But there were some things being said here and there. I mean, I had some stuff to work with, but not enough. And I cannot remember how I found this out. Maybe someone on Fat Mass told me, or I found out that Patrizzi had been busted by the Pope, or had been defrocked by the Pope, by the Vatican, because of the abuse. So that began to perk my ears up, and I was trying to get a copy of that. Now, one of the guys that's on Fat Mass, who was the mail order of it for a little while, he was nice enough to send me everything, the Vatican letter, which was in Italian, or it was Italian, but he did not give me one of the pages, and I needed that page, but he wasn't going to give me everything, and without that page, I was screwed. And then through divine intervention, luck, whatever you want to call it, I wound up getting the full letter, and the full letter said that we got these notices that you abused people. You are no longer to lead women ever again. If you do, you're excommunicated, or something like that. And that was it. So once I had that, I was off to the races. So I posted on Fat Mass about that, and then that's where I found. I'm gonna say I found Patricia Budd first, but I think Budd found me first, but I thought Antoinette found me first. Regardless, I started getting these calls. Like they'd message me. I'd vet them on a different email. I'd then send them to my real email, and then we'd have a conversation, and we talk, and I'd tell them, hey, look, I'm her brother. And that was the tough one, because I'm like, I wanted to make sure they knew I was in this for their sake, not to save my sister. I was in for the truth, not for anything else. Which then a lot of them knew me. A lot of the women had seen me, like when I was younger, at my parents' house, and they were there, visiting on the weekends. So I was like, oh, I remember you. I'm like, I don't remember you. I'm sorry. I don't remember. But they were really, really sweet. And that's when all the stories that these women were telling me, and they hadn't spoken to each other in a long time, everyone was the same with variation, but everything had the same core. And I went, oh my God, we're in trouble. I mean, that means it's legit. So it was Bud, and then Antoinette, and then somebody else found. I found another someone I knew on Facebook who was in it, and that's when they told me about the hardcore sexual abuse and the physical abuse and all this other, and that changed me. When my friend told me what went down to her there, it was like my life changed, because it was literally like, okay, your life as you now know it is gone, because you got to live with what your sister did to this person. And like, okay, we got to, okay. It took me, I think, days to get my brain back, but then I met her, and then who else was, then the women that were on, that wanted to be on Huffington Post. I found all these women. So it began to slowly accrue into this circle of women. And then I had a friend in Connecticut who was in the SMMI, and she was great. We got along great. Again, I had no idea what was going on behind the scenes. And then she left, and because I went up to visit some people, and I have a story about the one woman that was in the order up there. I went to visit her, I went to visit my friends. I said, where's Sister so-and-so? I'll just say Sister Kathleen. Like, oh, she left the order and all. Wait, what? This is sudden. I didn't know. And they said it was only like a week earlier, so it was really short. So I said, do you have a number? I want to call. I want to see what's up. I want to check in. I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm like, no problem. So I call this Sister Kathleen, and there are many Sister Kathleen. But I call Sister Kathleen up, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? How you doing? Because we're tight. So I go, well, let's meet for. Can I meet up? Can I talk to you? She's like, yeah, we'll meet up. How about we meet up like for maybe like for food? I said, how about so we meet up for frozen yogurt. Okay. Down where she's at, it's like an hour and change away. So I'm like, so I see her, and she looks like a train wreck. She looks like a lava lamp. It's like, brr. I'm like, what the hell's going on? I mean, just looked thrashed. And she left, and I don't remember exactly what the whole conversation was, but I can say we were having this frozen yogurt, and I do remember her getting very solemn and then going, Mike, she goes, I every time I put on that habit, I felt like an unclean whore. I just couldn't do it anymore. I just had to stop. And I was like, what in the hell is going on here? I mean, I'm like, what is going? I mean, slowly this was opening up. Like I was fighting out more, and I went, "Oh my god, dude!" So she was going back to school to get certified in something or other. But that's when I knew something was up. Now the big one. So now here's where things get really. For me, this was a bone breaker, a soul breaker. There was a nun in there named Caroline, whatever, Sister Caroline. And she was great. I knew her since 88, 89, and she was a thoroughbred nun. So meaning she was in another order when she was like 18. I mean, this is all she did. And she was really chill. She was a stereotypical, really sweet nun. Very happy, bouncy, quiet, very, just, it was like, what's a nun like? Here's this person. This is what she's like. And she was lovely, and she was in the SMMI, and I'd go and visit her, and I'd go visit and say hi. She never judged me, with the long hair and the earrings and whatever, but I go, and she never once judged me. She was very kind to me always, and a very sweet person. Now, here's where things get weird. Weirder. They're already weird. Here's where things get, for me, this was when the valve began to open up. Everybody had left the SMMI in Connecticut, and that was like the last bastion. There was only 2 women left. There was a Sister Kathleen, and then Sister Carolyn. There were the last 2 left. Somebody else, the other one went down to Texas, and she was the last one that had the title. These 2 women were older, and they were transferring. One was transferring to an order in, I forgot, in Connecticut or New Hampshire, a cloistered convent, and then Sister Carolyn was going to the Little Sisters of the Poor retirement home, right in Connecticut, but near Massachusetts. And so I go there to say goodbye to them at their old house. It was the last day. So I go there, I ring the doorbell, and no one answers. I was like, okay, well, so much for a surprise visit. I ring again, and as I'm about to leave, I'm walking in my car, I hear this voice from an upstairs window, Mike, hold on, I'll get the door. It was the other nun. It wasn't Sister Carolyn, it was the other one. And I knew all these women. Like, they were very nice. Again, these were very nice women and whatever. So this Sister, maybe it was Kathleen? It doesn't matter. I'll just call her Sister Kay. She was older. I think she was a lawyer in New York for a while before she went into the nun thing. And so we're sitting at the kitchen table, and Sister Carolyn was out. So I'm like, hey, what's going on? I know you moved. I just wanted to say goodbye. Hope all goes well. And well, I haven't spoken to you. I didn't speak to nuns alone. Usually they were at a table, and Carolyn was the head of it. But and man, I've spoken to you in a long time. How are you doing? What's going on? And Scott, this was crazy. I was sitting there, and this woman, her face like did this weird rictus. She took off her glasses, and her face turned so graven and sad. And she said in the tone of something like, Michael, it's like the book of Jeremiah. Who knows how evil the human heart? Who knows its depths? And I'm like, what is going on here? Like,
It
what
it
is
it sounds like she was just barely holding on.
she was? I mean, but she was leaving. Like
Mm-hmm.
she was leaving to go somewhere else and start fresh. Well, theoretically. So she was going to wait. And she, like I said, so but she was telling me something that I did not know yet. I figured out what it meant. This was right before things began to crack open. So I was like, yeah, okay. And then immediately Sister Carol comes in and I go, okay, hi guys, and we wish them well. Boom, okay. So Sister Kay goes up to her new place, her cloistered place, and Carol and I go way back. So I made it a point to visit her up in Connecticut near Massachusetts. It was kind of a schlep, but I drove to there. So I go up once a year. And then once these things began to open up, and I found out more about what happened, I found out about the the abuse and all this stuff. I'm like, what the hell? But now Sister Caroline was always so calm. Always, she was like a thoroughbred. She was this, like, I always envisioned her as a very holy, saintly person because she was just so nice. She was just so nice and calm and whatever. She just seemed like it was, she had it together and she was so kind to me, always, always, always. So I had this deep respect for her. She seemed so saintly to me and so nice. And so the last time I went up there, I did the visit and I said hi, and we were just talking a little bit. Just wanted to, it was a lovely visit. It was a lovely visit. But right as I'm about to leave, I look at her and I go, hey, hey, sister, look. I said, I've been hearing some things that went on, that there were some weird things that went on with the order and the women in the order. And then something happened that still scares me. You can't see me now, but I'm holding my head on this one. This calm, beautiful, caring face turned into this, and she gritted her teeth. She clenched her fists, and she became so pissed off and angry. I'm like, what is going on here? And she just said, some of these girls did it to themselves. And I'm like, Scott, I was scared to the marrow of my bone. This loving, caring sweetheart, really just wonderful human being, all of a sudden turned into this other thing, this angry thing. And I went, okay. And I left and I was shaken for days. And I was so shaken, I could not go back up and see her. I was like, I can't see you. Now, no one had said anything that she'd done anything bad, but okay. But I was like, I don't know what just happened here, but it was wrong. I mean, something was and I couldn't, and her blaming the women after I found out what really happened really kind of hurt. I stopped staying in touch. And unfortunately, she passed away without me getting to say goodbye or whatever. But I wound up going to the funeral and wound up being a pallbearer. But when I saw Carolyn make this face I can't even describe. It's kind of a horror movie. It was like, what the hell? It dawned on me. It's because this woman who was literally to me like a thoroughbred, a truly saintly good woman, that means the cult, my sister and Patrizzi broke her. They broke her soul. And when I realized that, I went, man, we're all screwed. Because it was that, I was like, if they broke her, no one is safe. No one is safe. Everyone else is chump change. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, she was such a good, holy person that I could see, and they broke her. I found out later how they broke her. She went in and she was older. And she was older but she had the most experience. She was a nun. She was 18, so she was easily in her later 20s, I guess, or something. So she went in, and she was liked the order, liked what it was about, at least on paper. And she was expecting to become head of the United States part of it, right? So what they did was they led her along, and then they gave it to Teresa. So they stabbed her in the back and gave the job to someone else. That broke her, and then she became, I hate to say it because I love that woman, she did all the stuff that you heard Georgiana say. She became behind the scenes, like, just, she did all the bad stuff. I mean, I won't say all the bad stuff, but she did bad stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, she became like part, she It was horrible. And she was so kind. I got other stories. She was such a nice person to me and a good person. But when I saw they broke her, I was scared.
Thank you for joining us here on the Cult of SMMI. Please go over to YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, leave a review wherever you can. Get the word out about this show. If you'd like to contact me, if you were a member of the SMMI, if you had a friend, a family member, if your experience was positive or negative in the SMMI, please reach out, strangepathwaysmail@gmail.com. Thank you once again for joining us here on the Cult of SMMI. I'm your host, Scott Mort, and I thank you. Take care of yourselves and each other.